All right, let's see if this works. I'm going to see if I get a preview here on OBS. I am new to streaming, so we're going to see how this goes. It looks like we're live. Welcome into the Paul Farrington Show. Robert Ziggy Ziegler here doing a solo react to whatever that Chicago Bears game was. We're going to talk all about it here in this game, in this reaction. Paul was unfortunately not able to join us today. He's busy producing for Richard Sherman, doing the Sherman podcast today. So you're just going to get me. We will see if I can stop this from going off the rails. There will be no Packers jersey. There will be no shirt taking off. None of that nonsense. We're just here to talk about football in that Bears-Ravens game. And I think there's a lot you could have said. When the line moved to the Bears being favored once Lamar Jackson was out, I started to get a little bit nervous. The Bears coming in as underdogs, maybe like the line moved, maybe you can sort of tell a story here where it's like the team's going to get hyped up, they're going to be ready to go, they're going to play some good football. This was a horror from top to bottom. We'll get to Caleb Williams and what happened there, but I think the first thing to do is to talk about. Okay, the chat's going off the rails. This is going to be one kind of live stream. But the first thing to talk about, I think, is just Caleb Williams has got to be better. Rome Odunze had a nice day. DeAndre Swift, the engine of the Bears offense, had a decent day. But as I was watching the game, I just felt like things weren't going right for Caleb Williams, even before that sort of horrific interception near their end zone. There's so many reasons to be optimistic coming into this game if you're a Bears fan. You've won 4 in a row. Things are looking good. And I know the teams that you've beaten aren't necessarily the best teams in football, right? That Commanders loss is starting to look a little bit different. Beating the Raiders by 1 on the road, you're not super excited about. But like those Saints and Cowboys wins were pretty good, right? They played solid football in those games. And to come out and see just the way that the Bears operated this game, it was not good enough, and it's not what you've been used to seeing under the Ben Johnson Bears. Maybe we were a little bit too excited, but like missing a wide-open DJ Moore in the end zone on 4th down, you can't do that. Oh, the horrific goal line sequences, you can't do that. The terrible interception when you need to get a drive going, you can't do that. And it's not like the defense helped the Bears out this game, right? Lamar Jackson wasn't here for the Baltimore Ravens, and the Ravens have really, really struggled when he's not in. To go over their past offensive performances without Lamar Jackson, they lost 44-10 to the Texans and 17-3 to the Raiders. Like this Ravens offense has not been good. And Tyler Huntley, he played solid football out there. The real problem was Derrick Henry. There were so many times when you needed a stop for this Bears team, and it just was not coming. It's funny, right? Like, if you look at the yards, the Bears had more yards than the Ravens. They had more passing yards. They had the same number of yards per play. They were more efficient on 3rd down than the Ravens. But it just felt like every single time the Bears needed a play out of this offense, it wasn't there. And every time they needed a stop from the defense, it wasn't there. So, I don't know. I'm going to put a Q&A in the chat here. We'll see if people have any questions or things they want to talk about with this game. I'm also happy to preview I think by the time we get to the end, we'll preview the Packers-Steelers game a little bit, because why not? We're right here. But it's funny. The YouTube AI chat summary says viewers in the chat are expressing dismay that the Bears performed this poorly. We'll see whether or not this chat is actually dismayed. Let me know in the chat right now if you are dismayed about this Bears performance. But I'll talk big picture, and then we'll zoom in on the game. This was a huge, and I mean huge, momentum loss for Chicago. If you leave this game at 5-2, you can sit back and say, we're tied with the Lions. We might be tied. We might be ahead of the Packers by the end of the night. Like, there's a lot to be excited about in Chicago. You've got some winnable games coming up. And I think this Bears team, it's always hard to go to Baltimore and play the Ravens with their back against the wall, right? You're coming off a pretty horrendous. The Ravens are coming off horrendous losses. They're trying to keep the season alive. They're doing this weird, like, Lamar Jackson gamesmanship showing. If you're the Chicago Bears, you want to be able to come into this game and show that you belong, right? The Bears, all of this time, have been trying to show that with Ben Johnson and with how things currently work in Chicago, that it's not the same old Bears. And the season's not over for the Bears. right? Obviously, they've played some good football this season, or at least decent football. They've got plenty of winnable games coming up. You go to Cincinnati this week, who, boy howdy. The Cincinnati loss to the New York Jets might be the single worst loss in the NFL this season. It might be even worse than that Broncos win last week. The Giants lost to the Broncos. But if you're the Bears, I think the Bengals and the Giants are both winnable games. But you were so close to being able to put together a 6 or 7 game win streak to go into Chicago with a bunch of momentum behind you. The Bears did not look like a team that's competing for the playoffs this game. And that's a huge problem for Chicago, right? The expectations of Ben Johnson and of Caleb Williams were that the offense would take a step forward. And the offense didn't look great. The defense looked even worse. Nothing worked right for the Bears this game. So I'm going to go over the Q&A and see if we've got any questions here from people. Defective asks, is the Bears rebuild over, or is this just a road bump? Well, the Bears won 4 games in a row. You cannot... you simply can't call a rebuild over because in year 1 of the rebuild, you lose a game that you probably have no business losing. And indeed, as much as I'm talking about how disastrous things were for the Bears, the first and fourth quarter were not terrible. I mean, the fourth quarter certainly wasn't great. Giving up that, like, being unable to get a stop and failing to get a field goal, or get more than a field goal when you really needed a touchdown was terrible. But the Bears did play some stretches of okay football this game. But it's not good. And certainly, this is a reality check if you're Chicago, right? If you thought that the playoffs were going to be yours, that you were a sleeper to try and win the NFC North because of the schedule you've got coming up, if you thought that if you just start getting divisional wins together towards the end of the season, it would be easy, it's not. Sorry, the Bears, I'm not going to say the Bears still suck, and I'm not going to say the same old Bears like this room full of Packers fans is saying, but it's not good. The thing I worry about with this game, and this is going to be a huge test for Ben Johnson, it reminds me a lot of that Bears-Lions game. They did a great job handling adversity when they lost that terrible game to Minnesota, fraudulent result, and then got the doors beaten off of them in Detroit. You have to be able to get the team ready to play for this game. They have to go into Cincinnati next week and win. And their road results have not been particularly good. Blown out by the Lions, 1-point win over the Raiders, 1-point win over the Commanders, and now this. But you've got to be able to get something going in Cincinnati next week, or else the questions are going to get a lot tougher about what the results, their 4-game win stretch, actually meant. Kelly Weir asks, is this a loss worse than the Washington loss for the Bears last year? That Bears loss to the Commanders last year was just... You have to put that in context. It was a game they had no business losing while they were trying to build momentum of Caleb's rookie season, and then they lose in the most heartbreaking way possible. We talk about it a lot on this show. Is like the heartbreak at the last second worse for you than just getting the doors beaten off of you and sucking? Because the Bears sucked in this game. Don't let the stats or the fact that it was only a 14-point game confuse you. I want to see what Ben Johnson does in stopping this team from spiraling, because I can absolutely see a world where you go to Cincinnati, a pissed-off Cincinnati team that just blew their season to the New York Jets and comes out and looks bad. Next week becomes a must-win, not just to keep the season alive for Chicago, to stop this horrible outcome from deciding your whole season, but also because you can't let the bad vibes spiral. I've got a lot of, do the Bears still suck? The performance sucked. I will say that. And of course, if you have any questions, feel free to throw them in the Q&A there. Metal Fingers asks which philosopher would make the best coach and with what current team. Philosophers have a deep deficit of practical wisdom. You do not want philosophers coaching your teams. So I don't even know how to begin answering that question. And the people who are saying that like Tyson Bagent absolutely would have won that game, folks, come on. Like, Caleb Williams is a fine quarterback. He knows how to play football. I am not worried one bit about how Caleb Williams is playing on the basis of this over the course of the whole season. This is a bad game, obviously, but the backup quarterback is always the most popular guy in town. I'll just tell you, Tyson Bagent he's not good at playing football. I'm sorry. Like, he's a nice backup. He'll be pretty good for them if they have to put him in for one game. But, like, putting in your D2 backup quarterback is simply not going to work. That's not going to play for them. Hugh Pack asks, does this mean that Baltimore could make a run in the AFC North? I'm talking a lot about the Bears because we're an NFC North podcast, but I would be remiss to not mention the Ravens. I am maybe unique on the Paul Farrington show. I continue to believe the Ravens are winning the AFC North, especially with their upcoming loss to the Green Bay Packers tonight. I continue to believe the Ravens are a decent football team. Now, obviously, the defense needs to step it up. But there's a reason the line shifted 7.5 points when Lamar Jackson was ruled out for the game. He completely transforms who the Baltimore Ravens are. This is a completely different team with Lamar. So, yeah, I absolutely believe they can make a run. If they lost this game, 1-6 is probably too bad. But at 2-5, I currently believe that the Ravens are going to win the AFC North. Excuse me. Look, I'll say a couple more things about this game, and then we'll go a little bit more to the Q&A. The skill position players in Chicago are good. This is starting to become a question. I know I said I think Caleb has played some decent football this year. The advanced stats do not look good for Caleb Williams. His EPA per dropback is near the bottom of the NFL. His efficiency numbers are down. Even in like that Saints game, he didn't look good. He's had a lot of struggles this season. And ultimately, I'll just say it, Caleb Williams just got outdueled by the third-string quarterback for the Baltimore Ravens. You absolutely cannot let Tyler Huntley outduel you if you're Caleb Williams. You were the number 1 pick in the draft. You're trying to prove that you belong in the NFL. This was not a good game for the Caleb Williams lovers. This was a great game for the Caleb Williams haters. And I know the Bears' defense is injured. I know that it's in a new offense. But, like, Rome Odunze's a good player. DJ Moore's a good player. Colston Loveland looks good out there. DeAndre Swift can play football. You have the tools you need in Chicago to be an effective quarterback. And they've put so much around Caleb Williams on this offense. At a certain point, you have to wonder, like, what more does he need? And unfortunately, it's not clear what the answer to that is if you're Chicago. Paul always says, and I think this is right, Thanksgiving of year 2 is when your quarterback needs to start looking like they belong. Now, obviously, there's the first season in Chicago is one of the worst first seasons we've seen out of a quarterback, even though it looked pretty good coming in. But if you're Chicago, the clock is on for Caleb Williams. And at the end of the day, he has got to start playing better football. If he looks like this for the rest of the season, I guarantee you the Chicago Bears will be looking at they'll be looking at quarterbacks in this upcoming draft. I'm not sure how good that's going to go, but Caleb Williams has not looked like the answer. And at the end of the day, you need a quarterback that can play. You need a quarterback that can play football for you. Is it going to be Caleb Williams of the Bears? It's far too early to say no, but it has not looked good. And James Lineberry asks, how long do you give Ryan Poles now? No drafted Pro Bowlers. It looks like he can't construct a good enough roster. That's an interesting question. I will say, setting aside the Pro Bowler thing, the Bears have a lot of guys injured on defense right now, and players like Trevon Dexter, I think, are huge wins for the Chicago Bears. The question is whether you want to draft Ryan Poles to get your next quarterback if it comes to that. I'll say this, I think they've done a great job assembling an effective offense around Caleb Williams. I think that their goal this season was to have an offense where you could evaluate how good Caleb was. And I feel like they've got that offense. And unfortunately, it doesn't look great for Caleb Williams. I know that Caleb Williams was part of the poll for Ben Johnson to get this job in Chicago. But, look, if you're the Bears and Ben Johnson wants another quarterback, you have to at least look at them in this upcoming draft, right? I'm not saying Caleb is doomed. I'm not saying it's going to be a disaster. But doesn't he have to start playing better if he wants to keep the job? It's not an Anthony Richardson level situation where he can't stay on the field and can't play decent football. But if I'm the Chicago Bears, Caleb Williams had a disastrous game. He threw a horrible interception. He missed open players on fourth down when he needed to. I don't want to have the Caleb Williams conversation. I don't want to give up on him. I don't want to not let him develop. But at the end of the day, it's not like you can point back and look at the good Caleb Williams performances and say, okay, this guy's shown that he has what it takes. This guy's shown that he can play great football. Things just need to be better around him. There aren't a lot of offenses that are more loaded than the Chicago Bears. And honestly, this year, I don't think you can blame the offensive line for his off-schedule throws. I don't think you can blame them for the pressure. I don't think you can blame them for the inaccuracy. It's been terrible for Chicago. Let's look back to the Q&A and see if we've got anything more. This doesn't need to be a super long react. This is not a Chicago Bears channel at the end of the day. We know the Chicago Bears have not quite gotten it done. But, I don't know. This is a brutal loss. I'm not sure I have a whole lot more to say about this, except I think that it's going to absolutely take the momentum out for Chicago. We'll see if folks have any more questions here in the chat. Otherwise, I'll get off. I appreciate those of you that have tuned in. Let me know. I'm thinking about doing a little live show before the Packers-Steelers game. We will see if people are interested in the Ziggy Live preview for that. Otherwise, I think I'll wrap it here with what was certainly a disastrous game for the Chicago Bears. People want a Bears still suck. Am I going to hit a Bears still suck? No. But I will say this game absolutely sucked. And if the Bears don't start playing better, I don't know, if they lose in Cincinnati next week, maybe you will get a Bears still suck out of me. In any case, I appreciate you all tuning in for a quick react. I know that Packers fans always like delighting in the suffering of Chicago Bears fans. So, I hope you enjoyed that. Anything else? We'll see. We'll wait one more moment here before we head off. Man, I really wanted the Bears to be good this year. I mean, I didn't actually want them to be good because I'm a Vikings fan and obviously don't want them to play well. But I feel bad for Bears fans, man. It's been so long since you've had basically anything go right for you. And this is yet another instance of things not going right. There's a lot of demand in the chat here for the Ziggy pregame show. We may be getting a Ziggy pregame show. So with that, the chat's getting out of control. I will sign off here. Terrible loss, 30-16 Ravens. The Bears have got to play better football than that.